Welcome guys. Today we are going to look into Zephyr Scale, how Zephyr Scale is used as a test management tool. So let's get started. So when we land on Jira dashboard, we have selected our project, whichever project you're working, you can select it from here. So this is the top navigation bar for the Jira. Here we have setting, the user profile, but for today's session our focus is on Zephyr Scale. So if you see here, when you install Zephyr Scale, you will find it over here on the sidebar. So in order to install Zephyr, first of all we need to go here, apps, explore more apps. When we explore more apps, you can find it here. In my case, I have already installed, so that's why it is saying edit. So let's say if you click on Zephyr Scale in the beginning, it will ask you, so by default you will get 30 days trial period. So I will suggest you guys to install and play around in order to better equip yourself. So when we go back to our explore more apps, you install Zephyr Scale, it will come to your project sidebar. Once it is on your project sidebar, you click on it. I think in the first time case it will ask you to enable. All you have to is just enable, and then you will land on Zephyr dashboard. In my case, I already created one test case before, so in your case it should be something similar. So let's put the sidebar away so we have a clear dashboard. So this Zephyr Scale dashboard which we are seeing here, it has on the top configuration, that is for the project, for our test project level configuration that we can check in the upcoming session. Then we have test cases, test cycle, test plan, test report. So from testing point of view, these are all different phases of our testing, and Zephyr did a very good job in segregating all these topics separately. So for today's session, we are going to go over on test cases, how we create test cases, how we enter the detail, and how it displays on the dashboard. Different styles of test cases. We can use TDD or BDD approach, whichever your project is following. So looking at this pane window is common for all the, not for the report, but all these first three plan for test cycle. This is same, so one functionality will behave similarly into the other tabs as well. So for test, let's say currently we do not have any test folder. Let's say for example, in your scenario, your application is working on different platform. Let us, you have a test cases for mobile devices and mobile platform, and then you have a test cases for web application. So when we click on new folder, we call this that it is our web application test suite. So this is our main directory. If you hover over, you see ellipses over here, you click on it, you can add a subfolder. Let's say we are creating a smoke build, smoke suite we call it. So when we click on smoke suite, so all test cases is displayed over here. But if we click category wise, we see that under web application we do not have, in the smoke suite we do not have. So when we click on more smoke suite, we see these tabs we have available. Currently we do not have any test case, that's why there is no archive or clone. So if we click on more option, we see these options that we will see in the upcoming videos. So if you click on new test case, that is how we add the new test case. So very important for us, these are all the different test details we can add for our test case. We will go one by one. On the right hand side, if we see save and back button, if we press back, it will ask us, do you want to change some changes? It says say cancel, there is no changing safe. If you say okay, it will create a test case. Let's go back. User is able to log in. So it's always good to give some objective for your test case. Our precondition can be user is on login page. Let's say your login page is not display when you land on the application. Amazon application, when you land, there's no login page. You click on login and then you land on login page. This is our precondition for this test case, that user should be on the login page. We can also add any other, let's say there's some more conditions we think that is useful for our test case. Let's say user that login page load successfully. So these are our preconditions. So in order to run these test cases, these condition has to be met. So we have a name, objective, precondition. So these details, they are very important. As a QA engineer, you should focus on these details as well. So first we will go on the status. We have 3 different status. So I'll generally tell you, so when in the real world, when we are drafting our test case, we run our test case by our QA lead or by project manager or with the business stakeholder that this test case is following these steps, and that is our expected result. So as a QA engineer, when we are making our test case, we mark it as a draft. So it is in the draft phase. Let's say down the road you design your test cases and then you ask your project manager, hey, do you got some time? Can you please review my test cases? So they can go over your test cases, they see your script, everything looks good, they come back over here and they change the status to approved. That we will do it once we complete to mitigate their behavior. Let's say this is a very high functionality from our application point of view. We can say it's a high priority test case. Component we will discuss later. So component, like whether it is an integration, it is a UI, so that we can label it. We will see this in our configuration setting of the project. We can add a component and then we can select it from here. Honor, currently I'm the single user here, but let's say in our QA team there are multiple QA tester. Let's say one person is writing, let's say lead is writing, they can decide who's will be the owner of this test case. Or if I'm designing my test case, I can put my name. Estimated time, so we can say let's log in time. Based on our experience, we decide our estimated time. For this one, we can say 15 seconds can take for this test case, or 20 seconds we needed for test case 2. Or we can say 15, we can say 5 minutes this test take, 10 minutes this test takes to complete. Label is another important feature. So in our application, when we have multiple suites, so these labels are very helpful for reporting purposes. For let's say we have a label bug, so we can filter out how many bugs have been in this sprint or in this PI. So we can filter from label point of view. Then we can also mention whether this test case is a functional test case or this is the non-production defect. So there are multiple label we have to create. At this time we will leave this thing. When we create label in the upcoming section, we can add over here. But for the understanding point of view, if there's no label, we can just add right now functional. And then when we go, this is our initial phase of the details. Now we will go on the test script. So these are the actual steps they are very important, and when we are running our test cases, so basically we need to make sure that all steps are been passed. So we have an option of selecting step by step. Gherkin language, BDD, like mostly used. Then we have a plain text. So for this example, we create our test case in Gherkin language. We can say that given user is on login page, when user enter user name and password, then click and click and click on login button, then user log in successfully. So this is our very basic simple form, simple gherkin test case we develop. So these are our steps. We can also use, let me copy this one. So we can also look into step by step case. We can mention over here, let's say user enter user name. We can provide here test data, user name, we can mention admin, and then we can mention here user able to enter text. So this is our, so we can design step by step, but as market is evolving, so we are more using Gherkin language. So I will also suggest you to use Gherkin language. So in this case we have added test script. Now we'll go over on execution part. So that will come later on. Traceability matrix we can mention over here. That part, as this is our newly built test case, so that's there's no data, but in real scenario we can mention over here. We can define if it is not, or we can also search from the project as well. We can check in the upcoming video how to add this web link. If there's external link we want to add in our application, that we can mention over here. Let's say we have Confluence page or functional diagram on the Confluence, we can also add it over here. So basically we are linking our test case with the requirement. Attachment, if any extra file we want to attach over here. Comments we can mention here, using admin as test data for our reference. For let's say down the road if we need to come back to test cases, it's always good practice to add comments to here. So history, because this is the first time we are creating, so there is no history. Once we come back, the history will make more sense. So going over, so these are the very basic level, at least just to go over the flow, that how we are creating a test case. So once we press save button, we will see that it automatically take the project name T2 that server sign and login test is created. We navigate over here. So when we go in our test case dashboard, we will see that a test case has been created. Like I mentioned you, the draft is showing that it's an initial copy. Let's say I have created test case, and by the end of the day on a stand-up call I mentioned my PM manager, hey, if you have time, I've created a couple of test cases based on the acceptance criteria. When you get chance, you can take a look. So they come back here, they see, okay, this login test is created. They go over the stuff, they see all looks good. They come back over here and they say approve these test cases good, and they just save the changes. When we go back now to our test case, we see it's mentioned here as approved. So basically that's the flow mostly follows. Sometimes if there's project manager and you have understanding, we directly mark it up as approved. Again, if we go in this test case and we see over here user login successfully and validate home icon. So this is the requirement we added. So we just say save. So now if we go back in the history, I'll come back to this version, how this is working. So if we look in over here, so here we can actually see the logs of our test case. So what happened in that down the road, if we see the test cases, are sometimes the flow has been changed, so we can always come back over here and we can see that how the flows has changed. And let's say if different tester are working, who added this step, we can also go back and look over here. So this is the new version. If you want to create new version, we can create a new version of it. We save our test case, we go on to the test case, and now we are able to see our test case is created. So I think that's it for the first session. We will catch up in the upcoming session. Thank you guys.